stitchy friends, it's Michelle, and this is my channel, Penny's Daughter Shares, where I primarily talk about cross stitch, but I also bring in some quilting and sewing, and probably some other crafts will show up from time to time. If you're new here, thanks for joining me today. Welcome, I hope you enjoy it. If you are returning, thanks for coming back. I appreciate your time so much. This is Flosstube 7, and today is going to be my Halloween FFO parade because I have so many to share. I did it. I reached my goal. I wanted to complete 8 FFOs since last Friday, and I did it. And I'm really excited to show you everything. So I'm going to start off with one quick thing though. You may think, Michelle, you look kind of different if you've seen my videos before. Yeah, I have my hair pulled up how I usually wear it. This is my more normal everyday look. I don't know why, just 'cause it was easier today, I guess. Seriously though, in the previous videos when I've had my hair down, that's the only time I've had my hair down in, I can't even tell you how long. It's for sure since the pandemic and everyone's staying at home all the time. This is how my hair is. It's out of my face, out of my way, and I like it that way. I hope everybody had a really good week. Like I said, I accomplished my goal, so I'm really excited about that. Before I get started in showing you everything, I did want to say a great big thank you to my husband, Jeff, because he is probably the biggest reason that I actually accomplished my goal, because it was a pretty lofty one, to do 8 FFOs in 1 week. Well, 7. And just a tiny finish to tie up a loose end on the 8th one. But he, after knowing that I said that on my video last time, I think Saturday morning, he was like, all right, what are you working on today? And can I come into your craft room with you and help you and make plans and even assist if I wanted it? I'm very particular, and he knows that and understands that about me, so he did help a little bit. The big help was the encouragement, the taking care of dinner and handling that. That's kind of a big thing in our house because nobody wants to cook and everybody wants to eat, and it's the whole thing, whatever. I don't know if everyone else has that problem, but that gave me a lot of extra time to be able to focus on some things. And like I said, the encouragement, because then we worked on some things on Saturday and made some plans. I think I got one done that day, I don't remember. And then Sunday morning, he was like, all right, are you back at it today? And he was planning out how many I needed to do, which he was saying 3. I did work on 3 on Sunday, but I did not quite finish them all 3. But it definitely set me up to be able to finish everything else. So like I said, I did 7 completions with an 8th, just a teeny tiny finish. To tie it up. So, excuse me. So I'm really excited to show you everything. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been kind of teasing it up all week with kind of supplies or items that I'm using in my finishing. And I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of that stuff if you were able to follow it. It was fun to come up with those posts because I was having fun with this and I liked sharing it, and most of the comments I got, everyone seemed to think it was pretty fun. So yeah, I'm gonna start with, I'm just gonna do a quick run through of the few Halloween finishes. Well, I say a few. I have 6 previous Halloween finishes that I've already shared with you. So I'm just gonna show them really quick because this is my Halloween FFO parade and I wanna show everything. So I'm gonna show those quick. And actually, I don't know, you could argue it's 6 FFOs, you could argue it's 11 because Jack-o'-lantern Jubilee is in there and that's 6 tiny pillows. I like to count that as 6. So altogether, I have 19 FFOs to share. Yay! All right, so let's get started. Let's see. So I'm going to be looking at my list because I planned out what order to do them in and I have everything laid out. And so I'll be glancing down to do that. Okay, so first up is a Mill Hill kit. I've shown this a couple of times. So it's called Happy Halloween Mill Hill kit. I think everyone's familiar with those. And here was the finish. So I just backed it with felt, added some trim, and then a piece of foam core covered with Priscilla's pretty plaids in the orange and black, and a little ribbon hanger. I just set it on an easel right now. I may change that next year or something, but so that's Happy Halloween Mill Hill kit. All right. Let me set that aside so I can reach the next one. Next one, another Mill Hill kit called Moonstruck. Let's see that right there. Like I said, I know I've shown this at least once, maybe a couple times. Excuse me. All right. And I did the same sort of finishing on this one. Okay, so I backed it with felt on the back of the perforated paper, added trim, and then this is a piece of foam core, again, covered with basic gray grunge hits the spot. And I want to say the color's Little Black Dress, but I don't know that for 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. All right, so that's number 2 in the review here. And especially with these review ones, the new ones I will go into detail for you. Everyone seems to like that. And I don't know if you figured this out about me yet. If you've been here before, I'm detail oriented. So I like to share all the information because I know, or well, I try to know it. I don't always remember all of it. But I like to know that too from everyone else when they share, right? So I keep trying to do that. These I'm just gonna go quick. Like I said, the review, you can look at past Flosstubes. You can also go back to my Instagram and all the details are usually posted on there. And if that fails you because you can't seem to find what answer you're looking for, drop me a comment or like send me a message probably on Instagram. A private message is probably the easiest way for me to catch it. I've heard that sometimes people don't always get their comments on their YouTube videos. I don't know that that's happened to me, but anyway, if it's a really burning question, it's really important, hit me up on Instagram private message, okay? All right, number 3. Let's see, it's Creative Needle Arts Spooky Cat. This again was a kit. Came with the fabric, the floss, even the little tart pan, and a piece of foamy, spongy adhesive stuff that you could put in there to kind of fill it and put the stitching over, okay? So that was a kit. And here's my finish. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so see that's in that tart pan. And I just did like a circle finish, but had to cinch it up a little tighter on the back with the fabric is all with this one. So there's Spooky Cat. Excuse me. Number 4 is Scarlet House Penny Pumpkin. Okay, I bought the kit from Country Sampler in Wisconsin. And here's my finish. This is stitched 2/2 28 count Ren. Mostly called for colors, a couple substitutions, but pretty much sticking with the intended colors, just slight adjustments. And the kit came with a piece of velvet to back the pillow, so I used that. And then I added this trim. It's like flat coin trim that I got at Hobby Lobby. And I'm still so proud of this one. I think it's so beautiful. Well, it's called Penny Pumpkin. How can I not love it? But the white pumpkin, and it just stitched up beautiful. So yeah, that's number 4. Number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 is Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee from Brenda Gervais. So this is the front of the booklet. Here's the back. I think everyone's pretty familiar with this. If you remember, I had it's still going on. Anyone that wants to use the hashtag, the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee sale, you can see some ideas. People are still using it. I posted all of my stuff using that. So if you're wanting to work on it and want ideas, go check it out, because there's some really fun ideas. I stitched mine on the called for 40 count Brenda's Brew, and I used all the called for colors. And I'm just gonna try to hold this up. How's that? Can you see it? Pretty good. So, yep, I stitched all of the pillows. Excuse me, and I backed all of them with this same fabric, which is Tim Holtz Eclectic Elements Regions Beyond is the collection. And on each one I stitched my initials, excuse me, and the year, made little tags on all of them. So there's that one up close. She's my favorite because she's so small. And I won't go through them all, but there's Trick or Treat. I think it's focused. So yeah. And the trough I got from Hobby Lobby. I had several people ask me about it. So it's just galvanized metal. I don't know if they still have it or not. I bought it a while ago. I ordered mine online. So you can always check that out. And somewhere I have noted the item number. If it's really important to you, let me know and I'll get you the item number. All right, so what did we say? That was 5 through 10. Yes, I think so. So number 11, and I just shared this last week, but I love it, so I'm gonna share it again. Ogle's Tart Plum Street Samplers. I stitched this on 36 count Ren from Picture This Plus, and I tried to use the called for colors. Everything's in the feeling of, or the designer's original intention. How about that? So obviously I did a circle finish, and that's just a piece of foam core, and then there's batting behind the stitching. And then this fabric is, again, it's Tim Holtz Regions Beyond Eclectic Elements. This is a plaid, and I tore a strip and made a ruffle and stitched it on. Covered button and a couple extra strips of the fabric torn to make kind of a cute little bow embellishment. And then this pedestal, you can see, bought it at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they have, I bought it in the spring, so I don't know, they may have them again, just in the winter or Christmas stuff, right? And I just have washers on the back of my finished piece and then magnets attached to this board, and then I can swap it out. So that's Olga's Tart as a review. All right, now, because I have so many things, I need to take a quick little break and reset. Otherwise, you're gonna see my back and my behind a lot as I go gather everything and bring it back to show the camera. So give me just a second to reset and I will be right back. All right, are you ready for the really good stuff? I just I reached my arm over because I have stuff sitting right here. You ready for these? Okay. I am gonna start with the one that I showed you last week that was so close to being done and would qualify as a blooper reel because it fell apart as I was showing it to you. You can't script that stuff. This is Teresa Kogut Snarky Cat. Just as a reminder, the look on the face of this cat is just like our Jasper. I think it's so grumpy looking. It's so fun. Stitched this on 36 count winter brew, and I stitched it 2/2, which I would not recommend on 36 count. That's just my preference. I know some other people do, but it was just too dense for me. Like, it was hard to finish the stitching. I love how it looks, but it's too hard to stitch that way. And I used all the called for colors, and I went over that last week, so I don't bore you with everything. Okay, so here's my finish. So this is one of those box frames, and let me see. Yep, okay. So see, I put a couple magnets there in the box frame, and then here's the back of my stitch. And so I sew the washers on with a couple of threads and then just tie them off. That way, if I ever want to take it apart, I haven't hurt my stitching at all, right? Okay, so let me just put it back in here. It may not be perfectly positioned. Okay, so yeah, so that's fully finished and now won't fall apart. I really adore this. So you saw I laced the back of it. There is a piece of batting between the foam core and in the stitch. This is frayed edge velvet ribbon. It's just something I got at Hobby Lobby again. And this is just some twine, and I braided it myself and then tied it together to make the little embellishment. Oh, and the other thing I had discussed was maybe adding something to these corners, and I decided against it. Maybe in the future I'll change my mind, but for right now, I like it the way it is. I just love the stitch and I love the stitching, and I think this is a good amount of embellishment down here, especially because that kind of helps anchor the stitch in the frame. So that is Snarky Cat. Oh, love it. Okay, so let me set that one aside. Number 2, so remember we're doing 8. So that was, I showed it to you last week, had to get the magnets and washers on that to complete it. That's all I had to do. So I don't totally count that as like I don't know. It makes me feel better and I can check something off my list a little faster, if that makes sense, when I have a goal like this. So that's number 1 and it's done. Number 2, and you've seen this stitch and I'm pretty sure I even showed you the finishing plan, you know, what I had planned for it. So this is Hilda Boo and Sunflowers 2 from Brenda Gervais with Fine Needle and Thread. As a reminder, I stitched this with the called for flosses. I stitched it 2 over 2 on 30 count Witch's Brew that was dyed by Southern Stitchers Co. I'm sorry, 30 count even weave. There, I think I covered all the details. All right, trying to keep, let's see. Yes. And just as a quick reminder, at the bottom of the border, I ran out of Weeks Dye Works Blooming Crocus, which is the purple used in variegated. So I had done the top border, the word, and knew when I got down to this border, I was going to be awfully close. And I was literally about I'll call it 2 strands, but 1 length of stitching left that I needed. And so I dug out DMC 210 and 211 and mixed those up some. Some I stitched 2 of one color, some blocks I stitched 2 of another, and some I used 1 strand of each to try to mimic the variegation. And I think it worked out. But if you're gonna stitch this 2 over 2, make sure you get yourself 2 skeins of Weeks Dye Works Blooming Crocus, or whatever you choose to decide. Let me try to say that again. Whatever you decide to stitch it in if you want to make a substitution, but make sure you've got some extra floss, especially if there's a mistake. So here is my full finish. This turned out really good. I love the little accent of the buffalo check in the back. So I'll start with the frame. The frame is just a black frame, pretty inexpensive, standard 8x10. Look how perfectly that fits with it. Standard 8x10, got it at Kohl's. Nothing real special about it. Took the glass out. Then this next piece is foam core covered with its Priscilla's Pretty Plaids in the black and white. And then my stitch itself is mounted on a piece of foam core. There is a piece of batting behind the stitching. Let me see if I can, because I used magnets, so I think I can take it apart pretty easy. Yep, okay. So just to show you, here's my magnets, which let me tell you a little story about magnets. Okay, so my husband does like a lot of like, we'll call it the tool kind of stuff for me. So if I come up with some ideas or learn about something and it is something you can go buy at Home Depot, like he will go do that for me and find the right stuff. And sometimes he even comes up with a better item to accomplish my idea, if that makes sense. I don't know, I feel like I'm tripping over my words. Excuse me. Okay, so I told him I wanted to use washers and magnets to do mounting, and he said, okay. So he went to Home Depot and bought magnets that were close to a 1/2 inch thick. And for some applications, that works okay. This one, they were way too thick. So I ordered these on Amazon, and I think they said they were 2 millimeters thick. I didn't actually measure them, but they're much smaller, and that's what I would recommend for anyone that's going to grab some magnets. Find yourself some thinner magnets. But the washers that he got, they're called fender washers, and see how they're pretty big. I would say about the size of a 50-cent piece. And the inner hole is pretty small. So you have a lot of space, a lot of wiggle room with where your magnets are positioned. Excuse me for the coughing today. Hopefully it'll go away. So when you're finding washers, and these are pretty thin washers, I would say if those magnets that I just showed you are 2 millimeters, these are less for sure. I don't know if they're 1, but they're pretty thin. They're pretty awesome. So that's my lecture here on washers and magnets. And maybe all of you already knew these things. I'm learning them, and Jeff's sort of helping me along with good plans. So yeah, my stitching, I'll show you the back here. So you can see I laced it. I have figured out when it comes to my stitching, I really prefer lacing it up, because if I wanted to, I could snip these threads and take this apart. And I did trim a little bit off of this piece of fabric because it was pretty big with the extra, but you can still see I have a lot, and I could do something else with this if I really wanted to. I doubt I ever will, but I like that I have that option. And again, I sewed on the washers, again, snip the threads, they come off, and it hasn't hurt anything, like glue or even craft tape would cause that. So when I do fabric backing board, that I stick, so I use self-adhesive, either sticky board or self-adhesive foam core, and I stick the fabric on that adhesive, and then I use craft tape to wrap it and tape it on the back. I don't like glue. It's too messy for me, and I know I talked about this before, and I guess some of you agree with me, so so craft tape works good. So laced the back, trim, I hand stitched it on, and and you can see I also hand stitch my corners where I've folded the fabric. That way I can get it pretty smooth on the back and it's not all bunched up, and you can't see it from the side. I'll show you again when I put it back on the frame. But so I do hand stitch that too, just to kind of cinch it all up. So yep, stitched on the trim, and you can see where I worked with it down here at the bottom to get it to line up. I think I did a pretty good job. You can hardly see where that is. So let me snap it back together and show you. This piece of trim is essentially a piece of black piping. It's a little, not braided exactly, but I don't know. It has a little twist to it, if you can see it. I bought some trim bundles from Michael's. So I have no idea how to tell you maker, anything like that to find it. I'm sorry. I have to fix this. It's driving me crazy. That's better. All right. So here we go. Hilda Boo. That is the finish. And I did not get it on there very straight because you can see the fabric isn't quite lined up there. Okay, I think that's better. I'll fix it later to get it more better. more Perfect. More better. Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah, she turned out lovely. Oh, and I debated on adding a bow or something. It just wasn't working for me. So I think I was happy with leaving it like this. Because it's not like, this isn't going to just sit by itself, right? I'm going to sit it with other things. And I think it would be a little too much for me. So, but again, if I change my mind, I can add something in the future. So I might. We'll see. For now, it is a fully finished object. All right. Man. Okay. So that one took me a few extra minutes, but I don't need to talk about all of the extra details in terms of how I finished it and on some other things. All right. Oh, and I just realized I went out of order from what I had written down. So now I gotta straighten myself out. So Hilda Boo was supposed to be number 3, but it was number 2. So I'm gonna show you what I planned for it to be number 2, but it's number 3. So I'll hold this back a little ways. Let me grab my board just so you can see all of her details. Excuse me. All right. So this is, sorry, I'm talking behind the board. How's that? Can you see it good? Oh my gosh. Let's try this. Oh my goodness. All right, let's get back on track here. I don't think you want 3 hours of Halloween FFOs. I mean, I guess I could probably talk that long, but I'm gonna try to get back on track here. Oh, yes, as I drop it. Okie dokie. So this is a freebie from Doreen Jones, and the title, I wrote it down because I didn't want to show the chart, and that's all I have. I don't have a picture. Is Willa Bella Witch. Yes, Willa Bella Witch. And it might be from like 2018. If you go find it on our Facebook page, it's going to take you a little while to scroll back into finding it, but maybe you can search it with the name. I'm not sure. So I used called for colors. They're all DMC. It's stitched on 28 count. It's either natural or flax linen, and it's just, is that brand Charles Craft, like you would buy at Michael's or Joann's in a tube. I'm pretty sure this is a piece that came in one of those tubes. As you can see, I stitched it in 2019, so I wasn't into all the hand-dyed linens and everything yet. So yeah, so all called for to finish, to finish the stitching. So for the FFO, I must give credit to the person who came up with the idea for this finish, and that would be my husband, Jeff. And I'm not making that up. So this was a case of where he kind of came up with the idea and then I executed it. So if you remember, I created a wall hanging with beads for flea market flowers, and that's kind of where he jumped off with the idea, is what he tells me. Anyway, I had bought a piece of wood bead garland from Target, and I think I showed that either in my last video or 2 videos ago. So it has these orange and white beads and these big black beads. And he's like, why don't you take some of those beads and create basically an ornament. I'll call it an ornament. It's pretty big. What size is this board? 18 inches, and it's almost 18 inches altogether. Yeah. It's longer than 12 inches, I'm sure of that. So what I did was I used, and I'm gonna set my board down here. I used a piece of felt. I don't remember what this color is, and this is just the inexpensive felt you buy at Michael's and Joann's, okay? And I'll call it natural. So I cut a piece of felt, and I'm trying to remember. I think I tried to cut it pretty close to the size I wanted it to be. So I wanted it to just be a little bit bigger than the stitching. I don't know if you can see that. And then I took it over to my sewing machine and I sewed it on 3 sides. And then I wanted a little more stability. Oh no. I think I ironed, no, I can't remember. This is what happens when you do so many FFOs in 1 week. I'm pretty sure I put a piece of interfacing on the back of her. I'm sure of it. So just a little piece of interfacing, got that on. Then I cut my felt, took it over to the sewing machine. I sewed it on 3 sides and created a pocket. And I had a piece of sticky board that was almost this exact size. I think I trimmed it just a smidgen. And I slid that in here. I didn't make it sticky, so I didn't peel off the, the backing paper. And just slid it in there so that I had some, sorry, I have a do not disturb and I'm getting a call. So I just slid that piece of sticky board into the pocket that I made, and then I just put it back in my sewing machine and sewed along the bottom there. And I used thread that was as close as possible to my fabric. So that was all put together, and then I planned out how big I wanted my fringe to be. And because this is sewed together, it won't fray any further, and made the fringe after I trimmed it, then pulled the threads. I just snipped a couple of little holes in the felt and ran this piece of twine through there so it runs the whole length of the back. Added some beads to the bottom here, and then I fed the end of my twine back up into the beads, so there's actually 2 layers or 2 strands of twine in there. Tied the knot at the bottom, then it was big enough that it wouldn't go anywhere. Snipped that in half so that I could create my little tassel. And then the top, same sort of thing. I ran the twine through the beads and then brought it back through, but this time I left the loop so I could hang it and tied a knot here. And then I just, I took another little tiny piece of twine just to kind of give it a little something. So yeah, so that is Willa Bella Witch from Doreen Jones, and that is my full finish. Let me give you one more look at the whole thing. Okay. And like I said before, if you have any specific questions that I'm not answering, just let me know and I'll try to answer them if I can. So yeah, isn't she cute? Oh, I think she's so cute. I love her glasses, right? So cute. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 in this FFO parade. I don't have the cover picture for you. It's Lollies, Crows, and Candy Corn from Brenda Gervais. It's an exclusive chart on her site, and it comes with like a kit of sort of finishing items. I didn't use any of the finishing items on mine. It's a little tray and stuff. I'll probably use that for something else. So I stitched this on 36 count fiber on a whim wheat. I stitched it 1 over 2 fabric threads, and I used all the called for colors, except I used, well, I'll just show you. Okay. I used Anchor White for the ghost. It called for DMC white, right? Yes. And then this was a DMC color for the pumpkin or the jack-o'-lantern basket. And I substituted Weeks Dye Works Persimmon because I wanted variegation in that. Otherwise, and then everything else is called for colors. Okay, so I talked about that before. So my finish. I would pull this out of here, but I don't want to. This one is a much more snug fit. So to get it out of here, I have to work at it a little bit, and I don't want to take it apart. But it is attached with magnets and washers again inside this little, it's another one of those shadow box frames, and I think it had a pet thing in it or something. I don't remember. I laced the back of it. It's on a piece of foam core with batting underneath. And then, like I said, I sewed the washers on the back of the stitching to put it in the, to hold it in the box. See, it doesn't fall apart. Now the frame came just like this, okay? It had no handle or anything. It was just a frame or a little box thing. Again, I have to give it up to Jeff for this awesome creative idea. So you may recognize these beads from the garland that I showed you last episode or a couple ago, and that I just used on, why can't I remember her name? Willabella Witch. So I used some more of those beads. But this was his idea to create, I'll call it a handle, but I guess that's the best description. And then to use some wire to make it stiff enough that it would stand up with the beads. So this is what he gave me the idea, and then I was to execute it, right? So I was really excited because I think it turned out fantastic. Oh, sorry. I just hand stitched on a little piece of rickrack, black rickrack here at the bottom. It's from Hobby Lobby. It's just standard black rickrack. Again, so that it filled my frame, because this is just a little off-the-shelf thing, and then that kind of anchors the bottom. So I think that turned out, I think that looks really good. And then, so yeah, so this was his idea. So he got his drill out. Excuse me. And you can't see the holes because they're covered up. But he drilled 2 holes here in the top. He pulled out a piece of electrical wire. And some of you are probably yelling at me. You probably know what gauge it is or something. But it had actually 3 wires inside the section. He took off the outer covering, which was white. And then I had a black wire, a copper wire, and a white wire. And I used the black wire because then you can't really see it. And so I, put one end in one hole here, put the beads on the way I wanted, and then the other end fed it into this other hole, and then I just bend them over so they're just kind of folded up in there, and then my stitched piece just is in front of it because of the magnets and stuff. So then you can't even see any of that. And then I am not going to remember who it was that I saw post on Instagram this week, and they had done a little finish like this, and I think it was something Christmassy, that was like a little box like this and had beads at the top. And I don't know if the thing came that way or what, I don't know, but they had tied a little bow on the one side, and I was like, oh, well, I have to add that because it's perfect. And I love it. Ooh. So yeah, that is number 4 in this FFO parade. Ah! And it is really cute. All right, number 5. We are going to talk about Teresa Kogut again. This is Witchy Poo. You see that? I stitched mine on 32 count Confederate Gray from Weeks Dye Works. I used all the called for colors, which I'm just double checking here. Yep, a few DMCs and some Weeks Dye Works colors, but all called for on 32 count Confederate Gray from Weeks Dye Works. I stitched 2 stitches over 2 strands over 2 fabric threads. Oh my goodness. Okay. And I love this stitch. I think it's so cute. Here is my FFO. So bring that up a little closer so you can see her. Isn't she cute? And she's holding her little black cat, and we hold Jasper like that sometimes. I just love her. I love this pelican gray, how the variegation came through there. I just love that. So this is, what do I call this? A pedestal? A pedestal clipboard? How about that? And I'm not sure where I bought it. I've had it for a couple of years at least. I'm gonna say, you can see, you can't, there's a clip there. I'm pretty sure I got it at Kohl's. And so I just decided my dimensions on this based on my pedestal. Words are really hard today, sorry. So up here, I just have a couple strips of fabric that I tore and, worked on kind of fraying up the edges and just knotted them on here, and then a little piece of twine for a little added little something there. So how I finished her is no magnets because it's not like a permanent board. Okay, so this backing board is a piece of foam core adhesive, so I stuck the fabric on it. Let's see, I think I can take this apart pretty easily. I just have it clipped up in there. Yep, okay. All right, so fabric on the foam core. I backed it with felt. All this is done with craft tape. Just because I can swap it out and I don't, if it's a messy back or whatever, it's all kind of covered up. Witchy Poo, there's batting behind her, and then she's laid over that batting that's on a piece of foam core again. I laced the back, and then I hand stitched a piece of felt on the back of it so that I could use craft tape to attach her to this backing board, but I could still take it all apart by removing a few stitches if I so choose. I doubt I will, but I like to have the option. I hand stitched on this black pom-pom trim. Just bought it from Hobby Lobby. It was on a roll. So I like how it's kind of thick pom-pom trim. And then you can see I lined up the bottom of her stitching, or this hill that she's standing on, with the bottom of my board. And then I have a little bit of space up here. And so I didn't want a backing board to go all the way around. So I decided to just have two sides on it. And I think I've talked about this fabric before. I used it multiple times this year, but it seemed to match everything so well. It is Tim Holtz Eclectic Elements Regions Beyond. And this is part of that collection. I just think it looks fantastic with this, right? This turned out really, really good. So I'm going to try to clip her back on here, but it's not going to be lined up right, probably. Whoops. I'll give it a try. It's close. I'll fix it later. But yeah. So, and then in these, I just tied on the clip. Can you see? Yeah, the clip there. So obviously I can pull those off and change it out with something else if I want to use this again, right? Use this board again, which I probably will because it's real neutral and I don't know, it's really cool. And it can really show off stitching, I think. So yeah, Witchy Poo from Teresa Kogut. All right, so that brings me to number 6. Wow, okay. On a side note, I think my coughing has settled down. That's good. Number 6. From the Woolly U, this is called Midnight Dreamer. Midnight Dreamer. There's not a title on the chart itself. I stitched this using the called for floss. I stitched mine on 28 count Murky from Picture This Plus. I stitched it 2/2. Yes, that's all the details for the stitching. Okay. And here is my fully finished object. Isn't it cool? Okay, I'm getting to where I really like making these little pillows. So, this is just stuffed with polyfill. I like how it makes everything, it's all pretty stiff. I like that. And it fills up the corners and everything. Okay. I measured out a 1/2 inch from the edge of my stitch to then stitch down the trim. I stitched that down onto my actual stitching. I'm sorry, I sewed it down on the machine with my how am I losing my train of thought? I think it's because I have so many things I'm sharing and I'm so excited about them all and it's hard to keep my brain like focused or something. I don't know. I'm gonna try this again. I measured 1/2 inch from the edge of my stitching and I drew a line with a air erasable marker. And then I went over to my sewing machine and I sewed down on to my stitching the trim, but backwards. So the trim was laying in this way. And then when I went to put on my back piece, I matched right sides together and I had a stitching line, and I knew that I just needed to go just inside that stitching line to catch the edge of the circles on the circle trim. So you've seen this trim before. It was on Penny Pumpkin. This is another one with a penny inspired border. So I love this trim. It just works good. So it's like flat little coin circles. As I did with Penny Pumpkin, you can see in the corners, I cut an individual circle and hand stitched that on to fill in the corners. And I don't know, is this a rule, an unknown law or unwritten law? The two bottom corners are perfect, like perfect. The top, not so perfect. But remember, I'm working on that. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be really good and done. So, I mean, those top corners don't look bad. And if you think so, please don't tell me. You might find me curled up on my bed crying. So yes, I sewed that trim on and sewed it together. I used Tim Holtz Eclectic Elements Regions Beyond collection, the plaid again. And I cut my backing fabric not quite in half. I like it to be down lower, the seam on, it's not right in the middle. So then I sew part of it here and leave an opening, and then I can sew the whole thing all the way around, and then here's my opening, and then I hand stitch it closed once I finish stuffing it. So yeah, that is Midnight Dreamer from the Woolly U. And I know this is still available. It's on Etsy in the Woolly U shop. Maybe local shops have it too, I'm not sure, but I think I covered all the details on that one. So yeah, really happy with him. Okay, number 7. Number 7 is my finish from the Bats and Booze Stitch Along from Fat Quarter Shop. I have a black and white printer. I don't have a color printout. I stitched this using the Called For Weeks Dye Works colors. I bought the thread pack from Fat Quarter Shop. I stitched it 2/2 on 25 count Lori Holt vintage cloth in the color Oatmeal. And that's a Lugana. Yes. Okay, so that took care of that bit of housekeeping. So let me get my finished object. And I am so over the moon with how this came out. So, da-da-da! Isn't it beautiful? How long is too long to just stand here and let you look at it? All right, let's talk about it a little bit. Let's see where to start. Okay, fabric. I used on the front here, these are 3 fabrics from the Midnight Magic Yes, Midnight Magic 2 collection from April Rosenthal, which is a Moda fabric. And I bought the Fat Quarter pack, or yes, the Fat Quarter bundle, because I fell in love with these patterns in her collection, and it was, and this is what I had in mind when I bought them. Then this trim piece is a piece of fabric, which it matches the back, which is more basic gray. Grunge hits the spot. So how did I do this? This is just a throw pillow. I think the tag says it's a 16 by 16. My stitch, I believe, was about 8 by 8, maybe a little bit bigger than that. So let's see, how can I hold this? There we go. Then my arm won't get tired, but I can still show it. I planned to make this fabric square be 9 inches. Then this here, this little border piece is, I cut it at 1 inch. So, and then I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So it's just a little 1/2 inch low border. I just wanted a little something to kind of separate it from what I did out here, which then obviously you can see it's 4 corner squares and then the 4 strips. I have to talk about my attention to detail because I don't know if you want to hear it, but I want to share it because I want to share like all the details that I paid attention to. So when even these corner blocks are fairly directional, a fairly directional pattern. So I was really careful that when I cut them out, I kept them all stacked together so that they were kept in their same direction. Does that make sense? So, you know, if this was selvage edge up here, all of them, I kept them all that same direction so that I was afraid the patterns would fight each other if I didn't pay attention to that detail. So what I actually did is the top 2 squares and even these rectangle pieces in the border, same thing on going both directions. So these are the mirror image. So I rotated them 180 degrees. So if this was the top of the fabric, then this edge is the top of the fabric on these bottom squares. Same with these 2 strips. And then this pattern fabric, you can definitely tell it is very directional and very straight. So I definitely spent time fussy cutting the strips. Yes, I needed, or did I only need 1 strip? No, I needed 2. So I fussy cut and made sure I cut the 2 strips that I cut out. I made sure that I was using the same part of the pattern. And then this strip up here, this strip down here, they are the mirror image. So see the edge here and the edge down here, they match. And if I hold it back, and same with the sides, just obviously the other direction, okay? So can you see that on how I did all that? I could have picked a smaller print, something easier, but I really like these fabrics and I liked these particular ones, and I think this is a good way for them to not necessarily be the exact, like the showcase of the whole project, but they really show off the stitching and they can still stand out for themselves. The other thing I did, I didn't quilt this per se because I didn't put a piece of batting behind this, but I did when I would stitch on my pieces and then I would press them over so like my seams go toward, excuse me, toward the outside of the pillow. And then I just went through and did an edge stitch. And boy, I hope that's a good straight part to show you. Just did like a little edge stitch. And I did that, you can see I did that on all the fabrics. And then even, and I'll talk about how I did this little edge here, I stitched it on there, on that edge too. I do need some more practice with this edge stitching and keeping it really good and straight, because I look at it and I can see where it's not as straight, and I don't know, I think I just need to practice with it a little more. I am not unhappy with it because I'm not tearing it out. I think it looks really good, and I like that added just a little something. So this is just a piece of this black dot fabric folded in half, and then I sewed it in like a piece of trim on the edge and worked really hard with the corners to get them to line up. This one is really good. This one is pretty good. And the bottom, actually on this one, see, that didn't follow the rule. I would say the top corners are better than the bottom. So my finished pillow, pillow cover, I'm gonna say it was a roughly 15.5 inches. And I told you the pillow that I stuffed it with is a 16-inch pillow. That way, I feel like it filled it up better. And I've heard that hint before, but I also know Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch just made a pillow fairly recently, and I'm going to show you another technique that she showed on her Flosstube that I used in a second. But she talked about making her pillow cover slightly smaller than the size of the pillow. And like I said, I've heard that before, and I'm honestly, why did I not think of this in the past when I've made pillow covers? It's been a while, but I don't know. Anyway, so, and then the back, I have a zipper. Woohoo! See? And then you can even see what pillow I have stuffed in here. It's buffalo check. I didn't intend for it to coordinate. It just kind of happened. So yeah, this was the other technique that Liz showed on her Flosstube. So what she had was she had cut her backing piece so that she had two pieces so that she could put in a zipper and have it open, and you can pull out the pillow that you stuff in there. But what she did was she sewed these two pieces together with a basting stitch with a generous 1/2 inch seam allowance. So those were basted together, pressed it open, and then laid the front side of the zipper down and lined it up with that seam that was created from basting the pieces together. You go in, you sew your zipper down one side and back the other, so it's sewed in there. And then you tear out your basting stitches, and voila, there's your zipper. The one thing I don't think I did a very good job on is I think this, where I sewed it, could be a little closer to the zipper. And I think the reason for that is I didn't bother to get my zipper foot out. And I probably should have. But it's sewed in there. It's the back of the pillow. It still looks fine. So I'm leaving it. So yeah, so then this little trim piece I sewed on the front first, and then I sandwiched everything together to sew it together. And then, like I said, I did another little edge stitch here to, you know, make that a little more stiff and stand out and make the pillow fillet a little better, I think. But yeah, that is my Bats and Booze stitch along fully finished object. And I can't remember which day I made this. Was it Monday or Tuesday? I think Monday. It took me all day to do, and that was everything to get it done. I hadn't started it prior to that. I think that I was debating on how I wanted to do the fabric on the stitching to create the front of the pillow. And I want to say that I fell asleep the night before thinking about it and had the idea to do the 4 corners. And that I wanted to do the 4 corners in an orange print because the pumpkins are set on the sides and they're orange. They're not on the corners. So I did, and then the bats are on the corners and they're black, and I have black on the sides. So I told you I pay attention to details, and sometimes that gets me lost in the weeds. I talked about that before. I'm working on it. And sometimes I just have to go, all right, you've thought about this enough. Here's your plan, and you're just going to execute it. So it just, for doing, I don't know, for just kind of doing this myself with some helpful techniques and such that I've seen people do. Obviously Liz was the main one on this one currently, but just in that I could reach in the back of my mind for some of my sewing techniques that I've learned with my mom a million years ago, and have this turn out. I'll ask again, how long is too long for me to just hold this up for you to admire it? That's number 7. Are you ready for the last one? I don't want to say it's my favorite, because honestly, to pick a favorite out of these is sort of like you asking me to choose my favorite child, and I can't do that. If I tell them they're my favorite child, I usually, well, let's see, I have 1 girl and 2 boys, right? So I can tell her she's my favorite daughter. And with the boys, I just choose whatever age they are at the time. So our middle son is 12. He's my favorite 12-year-old. That works for me. So anyway, okay, number 8, you're like, come on, Michelle, keep going. This is number 8. 2 Pumpkins Bright from Hello from Liz. Let me try that again. From Hello from Liz Mathews. I fell in love with this chart when it was released with Expo, and just had to stitch it. So I used all called for colors, except it calls for DMC black, and I used Anchor black. And if you remember, that caused me to fall in love with Anchor floss. I haven't bought the whole collection yet, but it's still up here and I'm still thinking about it, but I just need to get out and do it. I stitched it 1/2 on 40 count Grandpa's sleeve from XJU Design. And again, I love XJU Design 40 count. Oh my gosh, I've already ordered some more of her fabric, and I'll be on the lookout for buying some more in the future. And the color of this one just turned out so good with the finish. So, all right, without further ado, I'm just straightening it because I want it to look really good when you see it. Okay. Look at this. Is it awesome? Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, the stitch is just awesome. With the anchor black and those spiders and spider webs and the other floss colors, and then that fabric that I chose, Grandpa's sleeve. I mean, it was just made for this stitch. So you probably want to know how I finished it. Or did you just want to look at it? Okay, so you're probably wondering about the pumpkin. Here's kind of the back of it. It came from Hobby Lobby, all finished like this, except I added these couple bits of fabric ties and some twine. But like these leaves and the little corkscrews on here, and then this burlap that's on the sides, that was all how it was purchased. Like I said, and it came from Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they're gonna have any left now that it's not in season anymore, I guess. Maybe? I'm not sure. How I actually bought two of these. There's like a more rounded one, and this is the more elongated. I saw I don't know how far back you gotta go. It's been a little while. Teresa Kogut did a Flosstube and had haul from Hobby Lobby, and I want to say a few other places where she had bought like some finishing items, and she had the rounded pumpkin and thought, oh, this might be nice to finish a stitch on or a punch needle. And I was like, I gotta have one of those pumpkins. Well, then when I went to look at it, I saw this taller one too, which worked out perfectly for this. So that's where I got the idea for just having this for a finish, or how I discovered it. So all I did was I used, excuse me again. This is sticky board, and I put a piece of batting on it. Yes, okay. I hand stitched on a piece of rickrack on the top and the bottom. Because this is a slightly elongated design, I just thought adding a border, and like the border on the stitch you can see is on the top, or on the top and the bottom. I thought adding to that visually just kind of set it off a little more. And I thought rickrack was really awesome, and the black really sets it off, especially with the pumpkin in the back. So I hand stitched that on, and then I mounted my stitched piece on. I laced it again. Let's see, I think I can show you pretty easily. Yep. And because I can stitch on these washers, I didn't feel the need to put a piece of felt on the back. So you can see I got that all laced up there in the back. And I don't think I trimmed any fabric off. I think that's my full piece of fabric. And I don't know if you can see, I did hand sew this on each corner again. So that way, when you can't really see, I mean, obviously if you are really looking, but it can set against your mounting piece, right? Because that's all, and I don't have to ever worry about it like coming unfolded a little bit or something, and like all of a sudden sticking out, you know, so you would see that from the front. That would drive me crazy. So yeah, so I spend a few minutes and I hand sew that down. And like I said, I put the rickrack on. I put that on before I mounted this because I just put little hand stitches in it with black thread, so you can't even see them. And so it kind of goes the length of my piece of fabric, and then it wraps around and you don't see any ends sticking out. All right. Oh, sorry if that was kind of loud. I didn't expect it. Did I show you the magnets? I don't know if that's very important, but you can see the magnets. Again, I used those thinner magnets that I got on Amazon, and that's what I will use going forward for everything, are these thinner magnets, unless it's in one of those box frames and you have some extra space that you kind of need to fill up, then I'll use a thicker magnet. But so yeah, these little thinner magnets there. And one more detail about this. I'm sorry, I forgot. It's loud. Let me just get it lined up here. One more detail about this finish. This was another finish that the jumping off idea was really my husband's. So like I said, I had these pumpkins and I don't know, he pulled them off my shelf and said, what if you put this on a pumpkin? So not that I would necessarily not have gotten there myself, but it helped a lot that he gave me some ideas and suggestions. There were others that he told me and I was like, I don't like it. But he understands that too. So it works out good for us. So yeah, that is 2 Pumpkins Bright. Hello from Liz Mathews. Oh, and these pieces of fabric again, just scraps that I had from doing all these finishes, right? So this is Tim Holtz again, and then this is the basic gray Grunge Hits the Spot again. Twine. That's what I'm liking. All this stuff kind of goes together, which I think is cool. So, ta-da! Number 8. That is 8 full finishes in 1 week. It was a marathon. And it took encouragement and support from my husband, but I did it. And so I have all of my Halloween stitches are that I had started. I have more kitted up, let's be honest. But they're getting put away for next year. But anything I had started, I finished the stitching, and everything is fully finished. That is Halloween. And what did I tell you my total was? Altogether, and if I give myself credit for 6 fully finishes from Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee, that is 19. So, have I held this too long? I don't think so. Like, this pumpkin couldn't be the more perfect colors for like finishing the back of this. And then the grungy fabric, the grandpa's sleeve is grungy and it's on this grungy pumpkin. And I specifically flipped it around to the side that had this big knot on the side because I just thought that kind of added to it. It's awesome. All right, so I'm going to take a quick little break to reset and just come back for just a couple minutes because I know I've been talking a long time, but this is an FFO parade. And it's been really fun for me to show off what I accomplished. And I am going to come back and show just a tiny little bit of collection that I got this week and talk about what I'm intending to work on next. All right, so we'll get wrapped up. I don't think I'll take too much longer here. I hope one, you got some good ideas maybe, and I hope that you were able to get some stitching in while you were watching today, or listening to me, I guess. Like I said, I just have a little bit of collection this week, and I got my color and cotton. I am doing their 40 count linen fabric, and this is the Neutrals monthly club. I got Cauldron Smoke. When I look at it in the video, it looks like it's my wall color, and it's not. It is, excuse me, maybe that'll help. Nope, not really. It's kind of purpley, which I think is awesome. And it's called Cauldron Smoke. I mean, it's just begging for a Halloween finish. I was trying to find another piece of fabric that I could hold it against, that maybe it would show how purpley it is. Don't mind me grabbing out of my fabric stack that I need to put away and organize. Ooh. Okay, let's see. Maybe this will help. This is a piece of Grandpa's sleeve. I don't know. Is that picking up? I'm not sure. It's like a purpley color, but yet seems really neutral. I don't know. I really like it. And then I'm also getting, let's see. I think they have 3 different thread clubs. I get all colors, 5 skeins, all colors. Look at how awesome those are. And then I also like to get the primitive and neutral 5 skeins. Aren't they beautiful? Oh, and like they go together too. Still haven't cracked into any of these because they're so pretty. Like they are. I am going to get some projects planned out that I can do some substituting with those. That's it for collection. I guess when you're actually doing stuff and doing FFOs, it doesn't leave much time for collecting. All right, so here's my what's up next. What's up next? I don't know if that's, whatever. It's what I'm gonna be working on. I think last week when I said I wanted to do 8 FFOs for this week, I think I talked about that I would really love to finish October's party during the week, and that just didn't happen. In fact, I think I had one day that I didn't put any X's in anything because I was fully finishing, and kind of like by the time I got to the evening and sitting down with my family, and that's usually I'm stitching, I was kind of tired. I used my brain a lot while I was fully finishing. So just as a reminder, October's party, Little House Needleworks. Been working on this. I'm stitching it on 40 count brown sugar from Fiber on a Whim, 1/2 fabric threads, and I'm using the called for Classic Colorworks flosses. I did get some done. I got some of this done. I had to fill in this bottom border, and I did this urn. So I think that I can have this done within the week if I just dedicate some time to it. And I want to sit down and stitch. I'm kind of missing it because I'm just not like sitting and stitching. So that's where I'm at. That's up And like I said, I'd really like to get that done this week. I plan on framing that myself. I found what I think would have been a perfect frame for it, just kind of off the rack or, you know, buy it online, but it's only a 5x7 and this is a little bigger than that. So I need to find an 8x10 and I may need to add a little bit of trim or something to it to kind of fill in the space so it doesn't look too big of a frame. Okay, so there's that. And then this is a whip that I had pulled out. I started this for Mania. I pulled it out and I worked on it, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. And then I want to say I started 2 pumpkins bright. And it was just like, I was so excited about stitching that. So this is Plum Street Samplers Penny Autumn. Oh, and okay, so Halloween done for the year, caught up. I don't know if I should say that, but that's how I kind of feel. Like Halloween is all like an even cutoff point. So now I'm going to focus on autumn type things for a little while. And not to say that I'm not going to bring out something else that I just get a notion to do, or I don't know, but these are kind of what I'm looking at. So Penny Autumn, this is on Ren from Picture This Plus, 36 count, which might be the called for, excuse me. And I'm using the called for Classic Colorworks thread. Okay, so there's the chart. Trying not to get, there we go. Here you go. And you can, so, I mean, I have a decent little start on it. It's another one, to be honest, if I just kind of sat and worked on it, I don't think it would take me a real long time to finish it. So I want to get this finished, and I'm pretty sure I want to frame it. I'll see when I get it all done and what the size is, but I'm pretty sure I want to frame this one also. So yeah, so I want to work on that. I have something all kitted up here that I really want to do this one. So this is Jeanette Douglas Designs Fall into Autumn. And it has like specialty stitches in it, and I've not ever really done specialty stitches. A few Smyrna crosses, that's it. So I think that would be fun to do. I have it, like I said, I have it kitted up. I have it kitted up with, I haven't looked at it in a while. I have it kitted up with the called for floss colors. So there's a mix of Classic Colorworks and Weeks Dye Works. I am going to stitch it on this piece of 32 count gingham, obviously. It's just a Zweigart gingham. I'm pretty sure it's out of a package. You can see a little better on the back. It's just gray and white. I sprayed this with Instant Antique Spray, Primitive Gatherings, Instant Antique Spray, to kind of grunge it up a little bit, but I wanted it to be gingham. I think that this will look so cute on gingham. And then all the colors stand out very well on this fabric. And I'll probably make it into a little pillow when I get it done. So I'd really like to start that. I think it would be fun. And I saw this week that she has a winter holiday one. I think it has a poinsettia on it. I don't know. It's almost exactly the same, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name of it. But I'm like, oh, I need to get that for my collection. I need to make it. So I think that's what kind of inspired me. All right, let's get that out. Let's get it done. Well, I'll get it started. I don't know if I can get it done. And then the other thing that I really want to work on, again, the stitching is not going to take long on this. It's the fully finished object that's going to take a little while. So I was one of the lucky people that got a hold of the philanthropic pumpkin. This is so cute. And the stitching looks really fun. I have it all kitted up here. I mean, the kit came with everything except the floss, and I just pulled my DMCs out. So when I pulled the threads out, I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna stick with the called for DMCs. I don't think I'm gonna substitute anything because it was a kit and everything already, you know, they have it designed to coordinate everything already. So those 4 things are what I'd like to work on and be especially great to get October's party done. The other thing I'm planning on doing is doing some organizing / planning for, and I'm going to call it for 2022. Not that it won't be partially to get me through the end of 2021 with my projects, but I really want to sit down and make a list of, you know, my whips that I already have, my things that I already have kitted up, and I really want to work on making a list that prioritizes the things that I love the most and that I really want to stitch. So I just kind of want to get all of that sort of organized and get my intentions together for next year. Not that there won't be changes during the year, because things are going to come out, be released, that I'm going to have to stitch. But if I kind of have a direction, I think I will be able to get more done because I can plan it ahead, right? And if I have some charts that I haven't kitted up yet, I can get those kitted up. So that is another thing I'm going to try to get mostly done this week, to get more organized. And yeah, I think I've talked long enough. I hope my computer doesn't blow up when I try to put the video together. Last week, oh, that was a whole thing. I think it'll be fine this week. We'll see. But yeah, so I need to go get this together so you can see everything. And I really appreciate that you took time to share your time with me and let me share with you all of my finishes that I'm really proud of. Like I said before, I hope you got some ideas from it. And for those of you that are telling me how inspiring I am to get out your stuff and get things finished and get fully finished, thank you. I don't feel like the inspiration because I'm working really hard to motivate and inspire myself with some help from my husband. And to the person that asked me where you could find a Jeff, I'm sorry, I don't know how you find a Jeff. I got really lucky. And I think I'll keep him around a little longer. He's really wonderful. And that's not why you're watching. You didn't tune in for me to brag about how wonderful my husband is. But I'm gonna do a little of it anyway. Anyway, thank you. Hey, I don't know what your plans are for Halloween. I hope you have a great one. We're gonna do a little trick-or-treating and hand out full-size candy bars at my house. I like to be that person. Yes. But yeah, so that's what our plans are. And I hope you have a great weekend. I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna stop now because I can't think straight. And I've talked long enough. Thanks again for stopping by.